Recently, I was doing my research on the creator economy because I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this. I've seen articles written about it. And I was like, okay, let me do a little bit more research into what's really going on with the creator economy. And as I did that, I came upon a 35-page study that Adobe, right, the creator of some of these tools that you may know, actually put out. And they had used a 15-minute online survey to survey content creators, a few thousand of them actually, from around the world, and these were the countries that were represented. Now, I don't know how they recruited content creators from only these countries, right? If they only made it available to people in those countries, but I was a little disappointed there was one continent that was not represented. Moving on. So the first finding from that report was that 48% of online creators are actually monetizing their content online. And that was quite encouraging. I knew that there were a lot of people making money from the creator economy. Of course, I'm one of those people to some extent. But it was quite exciting to see that there are a lot of people out there, 48%. Almost half of these people that were surveyed said, yes, we make money from our creative work online. And so, the lesson in there for you is that if you're thinking about doing this, then there is a great chance, 50% chance, that you can make some money doing it. So if you've been thinking about it, please jump into it. The second thing that was super interesting was that creators are making 6 times the US minimum wage. Right now, the federal US minimum wage is $7.25, which, to be honest, is kind of disappointing because I came to the US but way back in 2003, and when I first arrived here, the minimum wage was $5.15. So to know that in almost 20 years, the minimum wage has only gone up by $2.10 is kind of disappointing, especially when in those 19 years there has been a lot of growth, companies hitting billion-dollar and trillion-dollar marks, and minimum wage is still at that place. Anyway, the point I try to make, I don't want to turn this video into a social commentary, but the point I'm trying to make is that creators report making around 6 times the US minimum wage, which means that 6 times 7.25, that is for over $40 per hour, which is incredible. Happy for them. And so again, if you've been thinking about this, I highly encourage you, jump in the waters, because there's a potential for you to make decent amounts of money. The third thing was that members of Gen Z and the millennial generations seem to be the ones that are taking advantage of this creator economy trend. And I happen to be, my husband always tells me that he doesn't think I'm a millennial. I'll be turning 40, God willing, next year. And so some people say I am one of the older millennials. I'm gonna take that. I could also be part of Gen X, but most of the people making this money, and it seems like most of the people who actually took the survey are Gen Z and millennials, and they're making the most money. So I don't think that if you're younger than Gen Z or if you're older than a millennial, you cannot succeed in this industry. Actually, I think there is a great opportunity for you to succeed in the creator economy because there is growing need for that type of content, right? It's like, I'm always excited when I see people on Instagram or on YouTube doing over 40 fashion, over 50 fashion, or over 60 fashion. Like, that stuff is going to become relevant. And to be honest, for those of us that have sort of grown in this technological age, as we age, we're going to want that kind of content as well. So even if at this time, if you're watching this video, you are above or below these age brackets, please embrace it, okay? Because there's opportunity for you. As far as who was making money and those who are making the highest amounts of money, which are like 0.5 and 6, usually you had men making more money as content creators, right? And usually white men made more money as content creators. And so, there are different ways in which, with this particular survey, there are different ways in which people were making money, right? But I think that, and sometimes these are complex issues, and I'm not here to make commentary on that. If you want to, you can make commentary below. But I think that this is why when I made the video where I talked about my 10 income streams that I built in my 30s, I specifically talked, if you remember that video, I specifically talked about the fact that I did not like sponsorships, because I find that usually with sponsorships, how much you make, let's say from a brand sponsorship as a content creator, can be very, very subjective, and it can be very much based on what you look like, what your race is, what your gender is. A lot of factors can play into that, even if you have the same number of followers. And way back in the day, I remember watching a specific Black creator complain about this, that they would go and, work with, a white creator and offer them more money, and then come to them with the same or even more influence, right? And I'm defining influence here as people that follow them, a very engaged audience, and they would be lowballed, and which is why I've never loved sponsorships as a way of making money. Yes, I know that content creators make money different ways, and that's the next point I'm going to discuss. But I think when I saw that statistic, right, I saw that from the survey, that's exactly what my mind went to, that sometimes these things happen, and if you are watching this and you happen to be somebody that's in charge of things like that, please make things equitable. Okay, let's move on. And if you're the creator, ask for more money, especially if you see that the quality of your work, what they can bring. And on top of that, that when you make a video for them, that thing is going to live on for a really long time. And if they license it from you, they're going to be using it in their marketing for a really long time, right? They're going to make a lot of money off of you. So ask for what you're worth. The next observation I made from this study was that 6 out of 10 of content creators actually reported having a full-time job. And again, going back to a video I recently made, right? It's not always that you will want to quit your full-time job to be a content creator or to create content on the side. Content creation can be a really lucrative side business, side hustle that you do. Yes, it could even make you as much or even more than your full-time job. But if 6 out of 10 current creators have a full-time job, it's okay. If you have a full-time job and if you have a side hustle, and if you want to do that, you absolutely have permission to do that. And for me, again, that kind of established that thought I was discussing in that video. Yes, 6 out of 10 means 4 out of 10 of these content creators are full-time content creators, which is awesome, right? But the idea I want to propose here is that you may not always want to leave your 9-to-5 job, and that is okay. You don't have to quit your 9-to-5 job if you don't want to. For half of content creators who had monetized their content, they reported that the money from their content creation made at least 50% of their current full-time income. Again, isn't that encouraging? I think it's encouraging. This report was full of a lot of encouraging things. Well, there were a few discouraging things too, but I just think that the creator economy is poised to continue to grow. It's poised to continue to offer opportunity. Yes, you have to put a lot of work up front. I'm not going to lie. Some people blow up in with 1 video or 2 videos, but usually those people are unicorns. Usually those people even don't know that they were going to blow up. Some of them are not even prepared to blow up and don't know what to do with that fame, right? And so don't expect to blow up in the beginning. But if you're consistent and if you have a solid business strategy, now this was something that was also kind of touched upon in the study, but they didn't quite elaborate on it, right? So you can just create content for creating content's sake, and then you can create content strategically to support a business that you're running. So if you're just going to show up on YouTube or show up on Instagram and say, I'm just going to be creating content, I want to see where this goes, I don't think that that's always a good strategy. It works for some people, but generally, if you really do want to make money, at least with my experience, okay, you have to have some strategy behind it. I don't just come here and create content. I also will tell you about my book. I also will tell you about my courses. I will link them below. I have an email list. I will send emails out to them. I create things and then share it with them. And then I talk about services that I have. So there is intent and strategy behind what I'm doing. But if you're just creating content for creating content's sake, hoping to become popular, and that's how you're going to make money, that's not a strategy. You have to have strategy behind it. And I feel like the study touched on it but didn't quite elaborate, but it was still good to see that, you know, as long as there's a business strategy behind your content creation, it's like fuel. It's like pouring fuel on fire. Like you have a little fire and then you have some petroleum. Don't try that at home. Explosion. What I also got really excited about were the sources of income that these content creators reported. I'm gonna read some of them off, but I was so excited to see that because it showed me once again that if you're just waiting for YouTube to monetize your videos, or you're just waiting for Instagram to monetize your reels, that's not a very good strategy. It's a good source of income, I'm not gonna lie, but that's not a good strategy. Okay, so what else should you be thinking about? Let me read some of those income sources that these content creators reported. The income sources included photography, photo editing, creative writing in any form, painting, illustration, sketching, graphic design, filmmaking, videography, woodworking, metalworking, okay, sculptures and ceramics, fashion design, app and website creation, gaming development, music creation, NFTs, VR, AR. Like, they're making money all the ways, you know. So again, do not wait for a platform to monetize you. If you build a really strong personal brand using your content, you can basically sell anything, as this study is showing us. A really interesting result from this study was also that as the number of followers you have increase, your hourly rate as a content creator also increases. So usually I've heard people say the number of followers you have doesn't matter, which I agree with to an extent, right? Because I do remember this story of this girl who had, I don't know how many she had a whole bunch of followers, like over 100,000 followers, and she launched a t-shirt and she couldn't get anybody to buy it, you know. And that's why building fake followers is a bad idea. Buying followers, all these kind of services out there, you can find them all over the internet that are trying to sell you followers and tell you that these are going to be real followers. And then sometimes people will say, oh, it doesn't matter as long as, you know, once you buy the followers, you create the right content, then the, you know, real followers will see that as social proof and then follow you. I don't believe in that. I've always created everything I've created from scratch. And yes, does that mean that sometimes I grow slowly with certain things? Absolutely. But I'd rather build an audience that is really engaged with my content, really loves my content, they're not fake followers who buy into the message that I'm trying to share, right? I want that to be my audience, and I'd rather have 100 of those than have 1,000 fake followers. However, if you can grow your account and you have a way to genuinely grow your account, whether that's on YouTube or LinkedIn or your blog or whatever, this is always a good thing, because the more you build that real fan base, right, the more you're building people that can potentially buy from you. So that was another piece of data that I saw in that was pretty exciting. I'm going to leave a link to the full study below this video. So if you want to check that out for more data points, you can definitely go and do that. But I thought that these data points were just so encouraging and fun. I wanted to share them with you, and also share that if you've been thinking about creating your own thing, please go ahead. As you can see, there are many ways for you to make money as a content creator, and sometimes it may not even depend on all the followers that you have, although having more followers does help.